finally got a chance to sit down tonight and I guess just have some leftovers. But I was just, listening to the news today and all this major bullshit going on. So I decided to record this because there's just like one person in government who just is worthless, and that's Senator Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell came out and was like, we're not going to bail out the blue states. The blue states shouldn't come to us asking us for help. But I love Governor Cuomo's comeback today that New York puts in $168 billion into federal coffers, and then I think he said $140 billion is taken out by Kentucky. And what makes me laugh is that everybody goes, oh, New York's such a high tax state or whatever. That's why. New York's a high tax state because we have to pay our bills, and then, well, the tri-state area has to pay our bills, I should say, and then we have to help support a bunch of other states across the union. And I get it. We're all in this together, right? I honestly don't believe that. The great American experiment is not dead. It's just the pandemic has made us realize now what's more important. And has given us time to sit in our houses and go, wow, there's a lot of fucked up shit out there. Number one, nurses, first responders. I don't think you guys, besides teachers, I don't think you guys make enough money. And that's what upset me about Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell turned around and was like, oh, we're not going to help out blue states who have higher standards of living because we have higher taxes, because we are helping pay for other states, helping other citizens have health care, helping other citizens across the United States have police in their neighborhoods, to have hospitals in their neighborhoods, nurses, the first responders that are taking care of them now. In some states, you say this whole thing is just one big hoax. The blue states help pay for that. And yes, our debt pays for that as well. And then you have Mitch McConnell who gets up and is like, socialism this, socialism that, socialism the other thing. And then he has Senate Majority Leader, I would hope, would know and come to understand that the rest of the country helps support Kentucky. That Kentucky cannot take care of itself. And I'm not saying that the people of Kentucky are not great people. They are great people. But they have been lulled into this sense of allowing government to take so much away from them and whittling it down to the bone, and can't provide bare services like police, fire, hospital care, health care, education, that Mitch McConnell diverts funds from other states to his state. Well, if you had an education system, your people would be smarter, or I should say more educated, so that they'd be able to have a larger tax base, or a more wealthier tax base in the great state of Kentucky. If you had health care for everybody, you would be able to help the miners who worked in the coal industry and now have black lung and are, confined to bed or confined to chairs and can't get out and can't do the things that they want to do. They don't have a quality of life that is what should be expected for them. And, I don't know Kentucky's transit systems or any of that other stuff, but I'm just talking broad generalities. The taxes are low in certain parts of the country because other parts of the country help give your first responders, help run your governments, help do things of that nature. And then you keep on voting in these stupid people who don't care about you. Mitch McConnell's been there for how long, right? Mitch McConnell was there. Listen, Republicans are unfit to govern. We are seeing a rinse and repeat of the years 2000 to 2008, okay? And what do I mean by that? 2000, Bush inherited an economy that there was a surplus. We were prepared to pay off its debt. Now, history can look back and look at all the things that happened, but here's what happened with federal coffers at the very least. Bush pushed in to tax cuts, the war on terror, expanded Medicare with the prescription drug benefits for the senior citizen. I think it's a global war on terror. Homeland Security, a new federal department that would cost us billions. And it was one of the large things that happened under President Bush. And then what happens? We have a catastrophe. We have the Great Recession that came in 2008, or started 2008, whatever. And then you had a whole bunch of Barack Obama years. And Barack Obama and educated people, some with bias, some without, brought the country to an economic point of the largest peacetime expansion of the United States economy. And at the same time created millions upon millions of jobs, which is most important. And then what happens? We elect a Republican, and now look at once again. Look at where we are. George Bush, in the year, I believe he ended in 1992, we ended a recession, or we were at war, we couldn't pay for it, the economy was bad, the savings and loans bailouts. And then Bill Clinton came in. Under Bill Clinton, largest peacetime expansion, millions upon millions of jobs. We turn over to Republicans, we have a crisis. Then we go back to the Democrats once again. Democrats put everything back together again. And then what happens? We have another crisis. And here's why. The rich people have you so ingrained. The rich people control politics. Simple as that. And until the people take their politics from the rich people, this is what's going to happen. Bernie Sanders warns on this on many, many levels, but he's just a little, I don't know, too... So you have a whole bunch of rich people who control politics and put the same players into play. Same players. It doesn't matter who represents you, but power has to be transferred. So I could probably go look, but I'm sure Mitch McConnell was there during the savings and loan scandal back when George Bush 1 was president, right? He was there underneath the Clinton years with the largest peacetime expansion and knew and had firsthand, could see what raising taxes on certain people could do when you shift cash from one place that's cash starved from a place that is not so cash starved. The rich are not cash starved. They have assets that they can convert, but some people are cash starved. And so when you're cash starved, you can't pay taxes. When you can't pay taxes, then there's certain services that can't be given in a neighborhood. Kentucky, if Kentucky did not get $140 billion a year, they wouldn't be able to pay for their police or anything. They would have to raise taxes. But once again, the problem is you have a populace that there's not a wealthy tax base in that state. But Mitch McConnell was there when he saw what the transformation, and then what happened? He got his little wet dream of a Republican president who then tore everything down. Then he was there when Barack Obama came into power once again. The Democrats came into power, put everything back together again. While the country was hurting, he and Boehner and some Republican allies decided on the night of Obama's election, they gathered in a Washington restaurant while the country was in the middle of its greatest financial crisis since the Great Depression. They decided that Barack Obama had to be a one-term president. And they were going to do everything in their power to make sure that happened. whether it was complaining about tan suits or saying this one was corrupt or that one was corrupt or blah, 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 right? And look still what happened. Able to pass through certain things that even though you pass Obamacare and you could give out money, now for healthcare for other people, and universal healthcare used to be a Republican talking point way back when, that everybody should have universal healthcare. Fact. So the GOP created the EPA, GOP created Medicare, GOP helped create HMOs. So GOP had built things that were once great in this country, and now they're saying they're all bad. Healthcare, no, we can't give it to everybody. And now we're seeing what happens. Oh, excuse me. And now we're seeing what happens when you take that healthcare away. I'm telling you, if you're one of the 44 million people who are without a job right now, and you pull your level for a Republican, they're looking to cut your unemployment. They are looking to cut your education system. They are looking to cut anything they can so that people like Jeff Bezos, who since the pandemic has reportedly made $28 billion, I don't know how they got that number, but even if he just made $2 billion during a pandemic, they want to raise taxes on those people. So each one of you 44 million people who in the past 3 weeks have been trying to file for unemployment, have been trying to file for COBRA, help, or wonder where healthcare benefits are coming. And those 44 million people, I'm sure a large majority of them did not have healthcare even at their jobs. And that's another thing. If any of you 44 million people pull the lever for a Republican, then you're the biggest hypocrite. Because right now, Democrats are fighting for you to make sure that you have health care, to bring money to hospitals, to bring money to firehouses, schools, Social Security for your grandparents and your parents, the disabled. They are looking out for them. You know why? Because Jeff Bezos just has to pick up the phone to his assistant and say, I need a COVID test, and one is given to him in half an hour. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little. But by the end of the day, whatever Jeff Bezos might need, or Bill Gates needs, or Warren Buffett needs, or Mitch McConnell needs, at the end of the day, they get it. And meanwhile, you have the great orange toddler up there. Yes, and I am referring to President Trump, saying, testing is not important. No, testing is important. You stupid idiot. You have to know who has this, who doesn't have this, before you're going to open an economy. And you all are suppressing numbers of deaths in prisons. I'm sure you're suppressing numbers in deaths in nursing homes right now. And I'm sure you're suppressing cause of death in anything. During this crisis, if you could not get money, if you could not get medicine, if you could not get into a hospital room, if you could not get into a hospital, get an ambulance, and you died, your death is directly related to the COVID, pandemic. Because COVID crowded out the medical services that you needed. And meanwhile, they knew back in, January? There's some reports that they knew back in November. But what happened? They had to see if the reports were credible. So probably by January, the intelligence community began to really, really ratchet up their warnings to the government. So much so that senators could go and dump their stock portfolios and rebalance them to make sure they made a dime on the classified briefings that they had been at and all the information they had at their disposal. And, Trump, what do I call them? I call them the Trump crime family, LLP, because, you got to do it for tax purposes. They were trying to figure out how they could, make money off of this. So that's why February is like a blur. You know, they keep talking about impeachment, da da da. Mitch McConnell cannot say, "Oh, this was because he wasn't paying it because of impeachment," because Mitch McConnell made sure. And the Republicans made sure that they could ram this through as quickly as possible. They didn't want witnesses or anything else like that. Oh, he was so paying attention to his impeachment. He wasn't able... No, he still went golfing. He still had the time to say stupid shit. He still had the time to send out stupid tweets at 5 o'clock in the morning or whenever. I'm not sure that's really him. But he had time to do that instead of listening to the 16 intelligence agencies that were saying to him a pandemic's coming. Right? And then they want to turn around and they want to say, oh, well, 3.5 years Obama did this. Supposedly cleaning the cupboard or whatever. Okay. I'd say even if Obama did that, Obama hasn't been in charge for 3.5 years. So you should have fixed the cupboard. You said that you knew everything. Everything was going to be great. Everything was going to be fine. You're going to rebuild America, blah, 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 blah. And 3.5 years later, when they're saying, oh, you weren't prepared for this, even though you knew about it, they're saying, because 3.5 years ago, Obama did this. Please, spare me. Then, you are still not using your authority to make sure things that are needed in the United States are done. You, Mitch McConnell, all GOP, all you do is keep pointing fingers at Democrats instead of saying growing a set of balls, going to the president, saying to the president, listen, you want to be a wartime president? This is what we do during wartime. We produce what is needed for our soldiers. Our soldiers right now are nurses. Our soldiers right now are doctors, healthcare professionals. So you know what? We need to give them what they need. So if that means that you're going to stop a factory from making pots and instead making bullets like we did in the wartime, then from pots to PPE or whatever. But you can't stand up there to the American public and say, I've done my best, because you haven't done your best. You only tested, I think, 1.5% of the population. You can't send anybody back to work yet because, A, Republicans, they don't want an election in 2020. So they're going to do everything they can to stretch this out. Thank God the people in Wisconsin, they showed great temerity in standing up to the system and saying, no, yeah, they put their lives on the line for democracy in Wisconsin. And I have to say, I'm amazed at the people who stood out there in Wisconsin. And I think there was rain in some areas or whatever, or adverse weather. During a pandemic, you stood there. Those are patriots. And they knew that something was wrong in the country and things need to change. And they were out there. And all the people on the Supreme Court and who voted, you put those people in harm's way, hoping that they would die, hoping to create a barrier that they would not be able to vote in Wisconsin. That's for Supreme Court John Roberts and the rest of you, rest of the people on Supreme Court. Thomas, I know all your names. You people act like we don't know who you are. No, we know who you are. We know your names. And we know the piss poor job that you do. And you sit up there and you want to raise your hand and say, I will defend the Constitution of the United States, la 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 la, but you don't. Because at the end of the day, the Constitution is the people. It's us. It's me sitting in my kitchen. It's you. It's Mitch McConnell sitting in his kitchen. What have you. But we're all supposed to be equal. And we're all supposed to have an equal voice. But we don't. And we know that. So I got off tangent about all the people. So Mitch McConnell was there during the 2000s. He was there during the Obama years. And now he's there during the Trump years. And he seems to be one of the key people whenever something huge happens to the United States. who stands there and doesn't do what needs to be done. And it's just, he knows the right things to do, but he wants to be rich like his wife, right? So think about all the Kentucky people, think about all the black lung people, how long he's been in power in Kentucky, right? You're still making $7.50 an hour, right? And meanwhile, him and his wife, Elaine Chao, who is the Secretary of Transportation, they have made millions upon millions on the back of those black and lung citizens. On all the citizens that they duped into voting for them, saying that they, or Mitch McConnell and Republicans, would make a better life for them. They haven't. All the people in red states, you have to look at yourself critically and say, has government helped me? And it hasn't. Government has not helped whatsoever. And that's why we need term limits. We need term limits, and we need publicly funded elections to clean out all this money. Listen, out of a, $4 trillion, it somehow should be based upon the census. $4 trillion out of a budget of $4 trillion. Every year you're telling me that we can't split amongst the states based upon the census money for elections, since really it's states who are supposed to do the elections. It's not the realm, and we get away from all this noise. Each state would decide how they're going to allocate that money. That's all. Dished out by the federal government to the states. What? How much do you need? $5 billion a year? What's $5 billion a year to clean up all this mess? Nothing. And you need term limits. You need term limits for the president. You need term limits for the executive, for the legislative, and for the judicial. If term limits are good enough for the president, which I think was very wise for them to put in, then it should be for the rest of the branches of government. What most people forget is when the Constitution was ratified, average lifespan was around 45 years. So nobody expected somebody like Strom Thurmond, I think, who was in there for 60 years, or 60-something years, or somebody else who was there for almost 70 years. Byrd, I don't know, something like that. They're dead now, but the system wasn't made for that. And these men and women, all they do is aggrandize power over time. You can say no to a snotty senator who was just elected yesterday, but you're not going to say no to a senator who's been there for 50 years. As simple as that. And you know what? States, they have the right. They have the right to send who they want for their political ideology, correct? All states have that right. So you know what? If the great state of Kansas, even after me imploring you to not vote for any Republican, simple as that, any Republican, and instead vote the challenger. What was I saying? I'm sorry. That you have the right, if you want to be a red state, be a red state. Simple as that. But don't allow the same person to have the power in their hands. That's how you aggrandize power. If you're always that person, you're always going to the same person all the time. So if John Doe, who wants to be a Republican, he wants to run against Mitch McConnell should not be able to run umpteen thousand years. And people say, oh, voting is term limits. No, it's not. History has shown. You got to protect the system from itself. So here, Congress protected itself by term limiting the president. Here, you have to do the same thing. You have to term limit people in Congress, and you need to term limit Supreme Court justices. No one should have a lifetime, in this day and age, no one should have a lifetime appointment. It's impractical. It really, really is. And there should be no, unless they're voted 18 years, and then he goes or she goes on to become the president, and then they go on to become a Supreme Court justice. No one should have a pension. No one should have, extra money. You have to think about it. I did the math. If you just did a 40-hour week, they make $84 an hour. So 40 hours a week times 52, that's $80 an hour, $84 an hour. And then on top of that, all their perks, all their pensions, all that stuff runs into the millions upon millions of dollars. We have just created a new class of citizen. That's all we've done. On the backs of America. And then they're turning around saying that $7.50 is minimum wage while they make $84 an hour. And then they're going to try to explain to you why you shouldn't make a living wage, why you shouldn't have health care, why you should not live in the best neighborhood possible with the best schools. It's incredible how the GOP have gotten away with this. And now we're in another down cycle where, look at now. I said this is a repeat of 2000, 2008 with the war, tax cuts, other programs. Same thing here in 4 years under Bush. We passed a huge tax cut. We got into a trade war, which has cost us billions of dollars. We're spending $1 billion on a wall that every academic says will not slow down either drugs coming into the country or illegal aliens or illegal or undocumented people coming into the country. And you have a buildup of military expenditures. So, and that happened during 2000 to 2008. And then we had the pandemic. So once again, you build up to something, and then under Republican governance, it is just shredded down once again. And when we say shredded down, it's the people who have to hurt. It's the people who, especially in the case of Jeff Bezos, it's the people who are hurting. And he has all his Amazon employees, and I just saw a commercial before I came in to eat. Oh, we at Amazon want to say that, during this hard time, that we're all with you. And, as Amazon workers, we're committed to blah, 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 blah. And meanwhile, Jeff Bezos will not spring for health insurance for his employees. Domino's. During this crisis, we're here for you. All our chefs making pizzas and doing this and doing that, whatever. And drivers. And we've hired 10,000 new drivers. Yeah, none of them have health insurance. And everybody will say, oh, well, that person, they only work at a pizza shop, or they only work at Domino's. They're experiencing what Peter Singer calls an experiencing subject of a life. They're worthy of the same dignity as any elected official. So why do elected officials make the people or ordinary citizens live not as they live? And that's what it boils down to. Term limits. You need term limits. And Supreme Court justices and everybody in Congress. I think 18 years might be good. After that, you're out. You can move to another branch. And that's what I'm saying. That's where you can get a pension. Yep. You're a congressman for 3 terms. You're a congressperson for 3 terms. Then you're a senator for 2 terms. That's 18 years that you served in the legislative branch. And then on your way out of being in the legislative branch, you run for president. And you're elected president. So then now you're in 2 branches of government, and maybe then you deserve a pension. But nobody's been there for like 3 years, 4 years, right? And, another person who makes me really mad is Scalise. I think Peter Scalise, right? Shot. I don't agree with him being shot. I don't believe in violence or whatever, right? But you would think that would change somebody. You would think that would make them a better person. No. All he's done is double down on his, just rudeness and crudeness when it comes to other people. You were shot dead. If you were not a congressman, you would not have been taken to the hospital immediately, had the health care that you needed, all your rehabilitation, all those things. And I'm sure you paid, I'm not even sure you probably paid anything for this. But I would love to know if you paid anything. And meanwhile, this all provided to you by the gift of the American people. And then you turn around and you say, oh, but that person doesn't deserve health care. Or Lindsey Graham. That girl. She turned around telling me I don't deserve an extra, and I don't have it, but she's telling me I don't deserve an extra $600 in my paycheck a week. What are you talking about? Those people, these 44 million people who are coming, they need help. They can't get reelected. They don't have powerful people across the world who are putting legal money into your campaign dollars or hiring super PACs or whatever else like that to make sure that you stay in power. They don't have that. They have you, and you are supposed to represent them. You want the super PACs. You want this. You want to stay in power. You have to give to your people. Your people should have the same coverage or the same rights to social mobility or economic mobility that they have given you. And they don't think about that. They don't think about that at all, right? And you know what? Nancy Pelosi, I love you. You know, she goes fighting, every once in a while. But once again, term limits, she part of the problem too. She's been there too long, right? Chuck Schumer, a whole bunch of them just have been there too long. Some have done more evil than others. Trust me. Especially this fucker in the White House who doesn't want any cotton swabs or oh god, Donald Trump. I would reporter just to stand up and say, shut the fuck up. Like you don't know what you're talking about. You just have diarrhea in the mouth, and all you're doing is just raping the American coffers. And you have a bunch of uneducated people who either are so making America pay for hiring a black man as president, so they're gonna put us through the ringer for 4 years, or they're just that stupid that they believe your lies. And we warned them, especially those in the tri-state area. We warned you, but you didn't want to believe us. And now you've lost your farm. You've lost your job. He never brought the job to you to begin with that he said he was going to bring to you. You've lost your health care. He's now saying that he's going to take money. Now in 2021, they're finally saying Social Security will not have enough money to pay out for its beneficiaries. That's next year. Next year. And meanwhile, how many people a day are going on Social Security because of the baby boomer generation? But they don't want to raise taxes on those that make over $170,000 a year. I don't understand it. They argue, oh, what are we supposed to do? Go back to the 1930s rates with 90% or what have you. It worked, right? We were able to fight a war, pay for everything, build the greatest superpower on earth while taxing these millionaires and billionaires at 90%. Why? Because what you're doing essentially is taking cash from people who have cash and whose lives will not change one iota if you take a chunk of cash away from them, even at 90%. Their lives will not change one single bit, their quality of life. And giving it to the government that, A, was fighting a war back then, right? And then B, trying to help the average citizen by giving them cash. And not sometimes cash directly, yes, but